Tabletopped will start after the following messages.
Are you looking for something comfortable to wear and keep your brain warm while playing tabletop games? Daily Dose of Yarn makes handmade, customized beanies for all of your style and comfort needs. She can even help you with a custom beanie to represent your favorite character. Check out Daily Dose of Yarn on Instagram and Etsy to order your new favorite beanie today.
Amidst the wreckage and recovery from war, a new secret war begins in the alleys, docks, gambling pits, and sewers of Aratai. A war of assassins, smugglers, crime lords for the underbelly of the city. Caught in this struggle, a bounty hunter and a thief for hire find themselves entrusted with the protection and life of a very special child. This is a story from the shadows of Aratai. Premieres November 12th on Dice Legends.
Hi, Excursionist. I'm Nari. Why don't you join me at the Into the Night Anthology podcast? Bring a friend along when you find us on your favorite podcast directory, and make sure to follow us on Twitter at Into the Night Pod so you never miss an episode. Remember, you should never wander these twisted paths alone. In fact, look, the first path is just ahead. Are you ready? Follow me.
Hey everyone, it's Nick here, your host, and on this Thanksgiving week, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for being the best community that we could ask for here at Tabletopped. You guys listen every week, and we just really appreciate it, and we appreciate you, so we wanted to tell you in this thankful week how thankful we are for your support. That's it. That's all I had to say. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We're talking about lore bards, and I hope you enjoy. Bye.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tabletop. Today, we are doing a Keeping It Classy episode, which means we are going to deep dive into lore bards, one of, I think, Shade's favorite classes ever.
Bards are best.
Yeah, bards are best. Bards are life. But let's talk about who's here today. We have quite a crew. So who's next to me right now?
It's me, Franco.
And who's across the way that I'm making really intense eye contact with?
I like to stare while we do this. It focuses me.
Eye contact is important.
Yeah, I want to be motivated, and you motivate me.
Great.
I'm Daniel, at Coronor on socials.
All right, Shade. Oh, well, there you are. Shade's here.
That's me. I'm here, guys.
But we have a brand new voice, one of our great friends, one of our D&D group for, 5-6 years now. Who are you?
Hi there, my name's Steven, longtime listener, first-time caller. Glad to join the tabletop crew tonight.
We're glad to have you. Now, everyone, let's talk. Everyone name 10 things that they know about lore bards. Franco, go!
Okay,
Franco. 1 through
fuck.
10, they fuck. Shade's
1 through 69, they fuck.
Shade's like, you're not wrong, but there's some intricacies there. So Shade, why don't you take it away?
There's a lot
I
of
went to level 5 to really start fucking.
When you go to fuck school.
the fuck school hard.
Which domain of fuckery,
Shade hates it.
So, yeah.
Can't get
Bards.
it up to level 5.
All right, Shade, bring us back. We've tarnished your favorite.
Bards are cool. I'm ruined.
That's an insight that I've never thought of before.
All right. Here's the thing. So lore bards are one of the subclasses for bards in 5th edition and 1 D&D as it's coming out. I think we might touch upon a little bit of that during this discussion. But it is really the bard that is first. It's like your base bard in 5th edition. But second, it's one of the best bards in 5th edition.
Base and best.
Base and best. And third, it's really about... so bards are, as we've already shown, often thought of as, hey, that's the fuckboy. Hey, that's the one that's going to do music and, you know, be the face of the party. But there's more to bards than that. You can, with every character, have lots of facets.
They have feelings.
Yeah, they have feelings.
And illusions.
But lore bards are more on the side of, rather than just being performers and things like that, they're really more on the side of, I want to gather information, and then I want to convey that information to people. And there's a lot you could do about that. Your lore bard's a teacher. Your lore bard is a poet. It doesn't have to be a musical instrument character.
Is Portal a lore bard?
Yeah, one of my favorite. Well, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. One of
He's
my...
multi-class the fuck.
Yeah, he's multi-class. He's got three classes,
I think
but
Bard is so made for multi-classing.
Yeah,
'Cause I
absolutely.
feel like there's so many different outputs that you can do if you're a type of person who really cares about the build of your character. You can go into be something more martial. You can stay in sort of this support role. You can go off and do something more magical too. I think there's just a lot of options with Bards.
absolutely, I would agree. You know, it's a very dynamic class in general, and its subclasses lean into a lot of different ideas. I mean, as we move into the 1D&D stuff, they're classing they're bringing in this new kind of like overarching category for subclasses, and they are one of the expert classes, which is essentially the class grouping that is
Skill monkey.
Yeah, it's the skill monkey. I can do pretty much everything. I may not be the very best at it, but I can do a lot of things, and that's true to bards.
Yeah.
But so, Steven, you also play a bard. Do you play a lore bard? Is it lore?
Yeah, lore bard. Yeah, Falkirk. He was such a reaction to my monk character in the campaign before that. He was trying to find a way to balance from a monk who was at Way of the Open Fist, and that's very little skills except for like what's in your background, and like I think I was human too, so I'm just like not setting myself up for success. And just feeling really like handicapped at times by that, wanting to do something more, have more options. So Bard seemed like a good option for that going into a Waterdeep campaign. And yeah, I feel like it freed up my mind for my second main character to try to think, how can I take all of these different tools and skills and try to like solve a problem without just punching it, you know?
Yeah, because I played a rogue as my first character, and I absolutely love the versatility that this kind of class gives. One thing that I think is really interesting, though, is that you always give something up when you're doing expert classes. Usually it's combat stuff. And I had a bard character that I played for like a one-shot or something, and it was a higher level bard, and I was sort of like, this guy can't fucking do anything
No.
when it came to combat, because there's a lot of combat encounters. But the way that you've built Falkirk, which is your bard, is sort of kind of like an assassin-y type person. And so you've been able to sort of do a mix there, you know?
I think a lot of it is about intrigue, and I think that's kind of your point, Shade, about like, are you gathering information? So a lot of it is like information manipulation, and then just, you know, along the way, getting yourself ready to do a lot of ranged attacks and staying towards the back of the party.
Yeah.
I think it was important. I think one of our first like real dungeon dive moments in Waterdeep, we were like in these sewers, and Falkirk got fucked up. He got messed up quick. And I was like, oh, cool. I can't just run in there. I can't be this. So I have to try to think of how can I actively be involved in a combat scenario, but not trying to keep myself as the battle person in the party.
Totally.
And something that I see a lot in like party dynamics and makeup is everyone kind of feels like if they're not doing damage in combat, then they're not really contributing.
Yep.
But they're support classes in the game for a reason, and Bards make up one of those best ones with Bardic Inspiration and just basic like buffs and haste. Yeah. So it's like you don't need to be doing damage to be collaborating with the group.
Yeah, totally.
And again, a lot of the stuff like a bard is, you know, buff, get out of the way, and be the face, get them out of the combat.
Well, this is an interesting thing. Like, I really encourage people to play against type here. Like, I didn't with Bill Stabums. He was like classic weirdo rogue.
Bill Stabums.
Yeah, he was Stabums for a reason. He stabbed people and was generally hostile to law and order. But the thing...
Terrible TV show.
Take that, Dick Wolf. Oh my God, Dick Wolf has to be a vampire. It's just like completely anachronistic. Yeah. But if you're playing against type, like because you are the face of the party, I think that a lot of times when someone builds a bard and builds it into that kind of fuckboy type chaotic character, then the rest of the party doesn't want them to be the face of the party all the time because it's like, you are going to land us all in prison. You're going to land us all in like space prison or whatever. So it becomes a thing where I think that when you're building this stuff, you have to think of what you're interested in doing, just like all different classes, but it's not as built in with bards because they can be customized in so many ways to do so many things. So it's like even more important to know, what kind of thing do I want to do? How do I want to play? Do I want to do a little bit of everything? Do I want to really invest in certain things to be super good at, but then make like that trade-off in other places? Or do I want to be, because you can build a lore bard to be crazy in combat too, like
broken.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the way really so let's just go ahead and talk about the three things that make a lore bard specifically in 5th edition. I went into the 1D&D details, and I don't know if they really get into subclass. Yeah. Well, they don't really get into subclass stuff as much as I thought they did for some reason. I don't know.
We're going to be talking about this, I guess, as we head in, but are the 1 edition D&Ds at this time locked in stone?
No.
Okay.
It's all play tested. But yeah, it's interesting to sometimes to kind of talk off of like, this might be where they're taking it, but we're not going to talk about that. Look it up yourself. It's going to change in 5 days anyway. But bards are weird in that they only get 3 subclass things. It's a 3rd level, 6th level, and a 14th level. And for lore bards, they get cutting words. And I'm going to read some text to you folks. I know everyone loves that.
This is good content.
That's right.
Give me some book, but like excerpt.
Chapter 3. Also at 3rd level, you learn how to use your wit to distract, confuse, and otherwise sap the confidence and competence of others. When a creature that you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, an ability check, or damage roll, you can use your reaction to expend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration, rolling a Bardic Inspiration die and subtracting the number rolled from the creature's roll. You can choose to use this feature after the creature makes its roll, but before the DM determines whether the attack roll or ability check succeeds or fails, or before the creature deals its damage.
Ring. Hello? Yet? NPR? You want to take Tabletopped into the NPR umbrella? Oh, wow, cool. Click.
There you
Guys,
go.
I got some great news.
That's awesome. You can get their number?
No. Oh, no.
You lost the deal.
We're so close.
There's one last line.
Oh, no.
You stepped all over me. The creature is immune if it can't hear you or if it's immune to being charmed. So let's unpack that a little bit.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That's just lore bard?
That's just lore bard.
No way. Oh,
Yeah.
like everyone plays lore bard then? Because that's what I'm familiar with in terms of, I've played a bard, Boxalumph is a bard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Boxalumph the Loxodump.
Yes.
I'm the only one that has a hard time saying it. But he was like a sword one. He was the sword
He was
one.
an elephant.
Yeah, he was an elephant with swords, yeah. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so cutting words is what it's called. It's a 3rd level feature. And so there's a few things going on here. Number 1, it has one of my least favorite 5th edition things. It's not just 5th edition, but I'm just going to pick on this specifically. You can choose to use this feature after the creature makes its roll, but before the DM determines, blah, blah, blah.
Boo.
Bullshit, Wizards of the Coast. What the hell? That's all of a sudden now a race to be like, I got to speak before the DM does.
Yeah.
Right.
No one likes that. DMs, just sack that from your rules. I
love sacking it.
Yeah. But the cool thing here is essentially it's an additional use for the Bardic Inspiration, which could improve your party in some fashion, or you could take your Bardic Inspiration and say, no, fuck my enemy. I don't like them. And that's really fun.
I thought we were getting away from the bards.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. This is the one way that I condone bards saying, let me fuck my enemy.
Well, this is the thing so I ran a alchemist artificer, and it was very much a support class. And one thing that I think that D&D does not do very well is make supporting feel amazing. And because you can do a lot of cool stuff, but it never happens on your turn and you don't really feel the effects. And sometimes they're like long term where you just have to hold concentration. And like that's...
you have to wait for everybody to do their stupid turn. This is my initiative soapbox.
Yeah, I think that Bards are a little bit different because it's a little bit more active in that way, because you're like, now I do this thing, like this is when I do it. And I think that that's why they're maybe one of the more like effective and like crowd pleasing of the support classes. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that they are, so again, I said I wasn't going to really talk too much about 1D&D, but one of the things they're testing here is making Bardic Inspiration reactionary.
That's really cool.
Which is really cool, because it's essentially taking cunning words and saying now it also can help your allies, which is neat.
I think a really cool thing for a support class is to like really make like reactions like a big part of it.
Absolutely.
I don't
it's
know
like
about if
the bulk of what you can
because
do.
Math is hard.
Sure.
But I really think for a lot of support characters, they should have more than one reaction.
I would agree.
Like they should
Maybe they
do
don't,
a couple of things,
or maybe
per
they can
turn
use
or
their
round.
bonus action as a reaction or something. You know what I mean?
That was complicated.
Yeah.
Hold on. So on.
Well, I think of it like kind of like
like fighters and a bunch of it. They get extra attack.
Yeah.
Why not extra react? Like
kind of
Whoa.
like a rogue
Extra react.
Yeah.
Well, that even
Whoa.
rhymes, Wizards of the Coast.
Oh my god. Yeah, submit that to the 1D&D playtest.
So
That's a house rule.
you know,
You heard it here first.
so that's one of the cool things that they can do. It's nice to be able, that makes them versatile, because they're still helping the allies too, because this is saying, okay, that zombie has come over and it's going to try and attack my ally. I, as a lore bard, can say, no, it's not. I'm going to subtract my Bardic Inspiration die, which continues to increase as I level up from that attack, and that could be very powerful. But there are other ways that the bard can be powerful in the lore bard specifically can be powerful on battlefield, and that's additional magical secrets. Lore bard is the only one that gets additional magical secrets, which is it's different. I mean, it's the same thing. Bards get 2 magical secrets normally in their leveling progression, but at 6th level, lore bards get an addition use of this, and what it is it's 2 spells of your choice from any class. And that's a big deal.
huge. Yeah,
That's very cool.
We were talking about, off mic, talking about like different ways that bards can get kind of a little broken at times. And I feel like this is like such an avenue for you to think about how you want to play your bard. And I feel like I feel like the inclination is to go down and do something that's combat heavy to really contrast yourself. But I do think, especially as you start looking into like the wizarding like list of spells or sorcerer, that you have these like huge like utility or crowd control-esque spells that can start to like escalate your role in a battle situation, or just take something that's entirely outside of that. I think Wizards of the Coast has done a good job adding extra spells even just to the bard list that are like with later additions, later like parts of D&D 5e, stuff like Silvery Barbs has been a fantastic addition for spells that'll allow you to use your spell slots outside of combat and feel like you're actually causing change to happen. I think that's like, to me, the bread and butter of being a bard.
And don't sleep on the magic initiate feat either. Get a cantrip and another spell from another class. Again, just really like double in on making the bard a utilitarian. But
A utilitarian fuck. Daniel, we're getting away from bards fucking.
Yeah, come on, man.
you are. I'm not. I never said on that side of the fence.
I also love it being a good opportunity to bring RPing into different levels of the game, like Vicious Mockery being one of the, like most gone after cantrips for a bard. Even if someone's not comfortable with RPing what that Vicious Mockery is, I love the idea of trying to invite people into, like, all right, who are you going after? What's it going to be? You don't have to do it in character right now if you're not comfortable, but what are you insulting? Like, how are you distracting them and hurting them in this moment?
And I feel like for that character who is having a little bit of a hard time completely involving themselves in like an RP way, this is a good place to start, because you can make all of the jokes that you make at the table with just like out of character as the Vicious Mockery stuff. you know, and like that's a way in sort of thing. One thing that like on that line though is that because they are kind of seen as the face, and a lot of times they're put through a lot of RP heavy situations, and that's where they can shine. How do you recommend characters who maybe not characters, people that are playing these characters, human beings? How
you know
as
what those are.
How do you, as a DM, recommend somebody who isn't super comfortable with that RP aspect or doesn't feel very charismatic?
That's a great question, Nick. I was thinking about it too.
Yeah, like what do you guys think?
We actually kind of just faced something like this. It wasn't a bard character, but it was, with Extra Life, we were running a D&D game, and I got a chance to DM for that. And, bringing in people who might have no experience with any tabletop playing or any RPing, outside of like just make-believe when they're younger or with their friends. How do you bring them into strangers and say, now you're going to play this character, ask these questions, be a part of it? I think a lot of it is, as a DM, being open to the different types of ways that character or players can like insert themselves into the RPing, whether that's by saying something as a line of a character or saying, here's what I would ask. Yeah. And then you as the DM or GM trying to like balance that and kind of like slowly encouraging them to get into more of the character and asking less of, it's not Nick, it's going to be Marks, getting Marks, what are you going to do about this? And you start to see, I feel in my experiences, as that goes on over an hour, 2 hours, you see this loosening happening. And that's what happened in our most recent experience where we had one of our new players who was like, okay, no, all right, I'm getting into it. And by the end, it went from, my character would ask this to, no, James is doing this now. Yeah. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, like, I mean, when I built Bill Stabhams, my first character, Bill would talk about themselves in the third person because I would be like, Bill does this, Bill does that. And then as I got more comfortable with role-playing, I then was like, Bill Staphams talks about Bill Staphams in the third person so that I could make that shift. And then by the end, I was just like I do this, I do that. Yeah. So I think that there is a way you can transition in that way by allowing characters to have a little bit of a wall. The other thing is that like and I find that this is the way I do it, but other DMs, please feel free to chime in. When a character is really high intelligence or a character has a really high stat, and the player's like, I'm at a loss, but like I have a 20 intelligence. What would my character kind of feel or be thinking about? Yeah. You could do it that way too.
Because that gets sort of like, I guess, construed wrongly for a lot of times. Because if you're playing a character with like a 20 strength, you're never asked to move a 500-pound column.
I actually do require it for anyone who wants to do any strength training. I need to perform it in real life.
Yeah, your wizards and your high charisma people, like, you're always asked, well, what do you say? How do you... It's like, I'm playing this character that's going to be better at this than I've been able to be.
You have a high con? Eat this ghost pepper.
So you also like for these like the high stat socials like with the wizards, clerics, with like the things that more kind of like frequently get asked to like prove how you do that. Do it for us now in this RP setting. Yeah. You do have to sort of like let the players go into like a third person RPing and sort of like, I don't know, steal from like Sherlock Holmes. Like, oh, I see all of these things and facts. And like let them make up reasons.
Yeah,
like step into my mind palace.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a great way to do is like I start looking at the runes on this puzzle wall, and I start like recognizing certain ones. What do I recognize, DM? Yeah, something like that. You can do it that way.
And that's why dice exists, right? Like that's why you're rolling the dice to be like, I personally am not seeing this. And like, so you have to help fill it in as the DM or GM to say, I might just be like, yeah, I insult with my vicious mockery that goblin with how he just missed his last swing. I'm not gonna say the insult, but then the DM can fill it in and be like, oh, he is so offended by this. He's like, I tried my best. Like you can build this character moment, which then entices more character moments.
I think there's sorry, this feels like a tangent, and I know we're really bad about them.
I mean, we've been on a tangent for a while.
Have a good
technically.
One,
we're still talking. Well, so the thing you said puzzles.
Yeah.
But like puzzles can be a really like integral part of like the actual game. So like,
but so can RP.
Right. But like, what's I don't know. There's like the balance. Like, here's the stat. Here's the stat. But then also like, the players are playing a game, and the part of the game is to solve this puzzle. Like
puzzles don't need solutions. Sometimes you can be like, roll a check. All right, you get it 17. How does your character solve this? They give you a good answer. boom, that's how they did it. It doesn't
Sure.
need to really like.
Or if it's
I mean,
like,
there's a lot of ways to do it, but I just
Yeah.
think it's like
what
interesting.
what I'm also kind of picking up is like the idea that you spend 2 hours building a puzzle that actually has a solution that your characters can work
Well, yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah.
And then
yeah. Well, yeah, don't do that. Like build really simple puzzles.
Yeah.
For sure. But
Puzzles are also hard because you're not trying the character at that point in time. You are testing the player.
Yeah.
And if that's the thing, you almost have to like in the ideas of having communication and consent when it comes to your players is, do you like puzzles? Because the last thing I would want to do is like, I built this awesome puzzle, and you see half your group just be like, hate puzzles, peace for the next 30 minutes.
I think like the multiple solutions angle is also helpful because like with a role playing situation, with a combat situation, and with like when sort of thinking about like puzzles or like traps or things to solve or whatever, there should be multiple solutions for, like you should be as open as possible to the amount of things that your players could come up with.
And totally, and like a little bit on that, but bringing it back to Bards is that like if you are
Nice.
doing, they call me Mr. Segway because I give Segway tours. No, so they like if you are playing a Bard and you go up to like a gate or whatever, and it's not a puzzle. Oh, Shade had a comment that he swallowed and it came out in laughs.
I can't wait.
Oh boy. Okay, let me get through this, and you can tell your awesome joke.
I wanted to hear it.
Cut anyways.
So like there are like let's say that there's a gated pathway that people have to get through, and so you send the face, but the character the player is not comfortable being the charismatic person. You could also be like, he goes up and he just says like let me through please, and then the guards are like and the guards can be like, they look at you and they see just like the depth of the like they see something in you that immediately turns their favor. And as a DM, so you can also do that to try to help the people who want to play lore bards to try to get that feeling of like, oh, I can do all this stuff kind of thing.
The guard
are
see
a
him.
thing.
The guard sees him and is like, this guy fucks.
Guys, I kind of want to sleep with that guy who just went through the gate.
So kind of like tying back to the magical secrets, though, I think that's what makes Bard so cool, especially for players who aren't certain what kind of like Bard they want to be, is you get these options to say, I'm just going to take 2 spells in Wizard, and I'm going to take 2 spells that are like, I'm going to take like haste and like, was it Swift Quiver? I think that's one of them too. So all of a sudden now I'm an arching machine. I'm just going to sit back here and just snipe like Legolas. Like it's just, and that's cool. And like, but if you try that with the idea of Lore Bard, like, okay, I tried that, level 6 comes up, I don't want to do this anymore. Then you can kind of like switch over to a different type and really play a like kind of a Master of None character, which happens to be one of the Bard's things. But I think it's kind of cool because it allows you to fit into the mold of anything and kind of, as a player, play whatever you're feeling right now.
So, Shade, this is something I feel really strongly about, which is that later in a campaign, a character is supposed to feel really good at the thing that they do, right? They like a rogue is supposed to feel like they can steal anything. They can unlock doors. They are a master lockpick. That they can feel that way. Or if they're an assassin, they can like hit 100 things or whatever.
Or like steal from a god, in a dream state. Because I can't really anything else
No matter where you go to D&D, you'll never get through a door. It doesn't happen.
It only takes one failure to be a dead good thief.
But that's the thing, is that like putting that aside, the dead good thief idea, the theory that is being put out, but like at the end of a campaign, a fighter should feel like a crazy machine on the battlefield. A thief should feel like a skill monkey that can do a lot of great things really well and succeed 90% of the time until that one time they die. But with a bard, if you do the Master of None thing, you can get to a late level and feel like, I just don't have that overwhelming feeling. Is that true?
I would disagree. Bard is, for 5th edition in particular, a really strong class where, you could, I don't know, screw up some of your choices, but ultimately you're going to have so many choices. Your toolbox is so full that you're going to be fine. And to address this again, wasn't going to talk too much about 1D&D, but one of the things they are looking at is making bards a prepared class or caster class. As it stands, bards are, you select the spells, that's it. That's interesting, and that's already a optional
Can I be honest?
feature?
I hate prepared spells. I hate that as an idea.
Well, I'm with Nick on this one.
Yeah.
I agree.
I played a paladin first, and that's a prepared spell class, and I was like, yeah, okay, and there's a lot of choices, but like I feel like I'm making the right choices at these situations and stuff. And then I started playing a sorcerer, which is not preparing spells, and I was like, I wish I had more choices, but now I don't have to think about anything.
See, that's kind of to your point, Shade, about like the idea of like even if you're a master none as a bard, I like the idea that it's about adaptability.
Yeah.
So I feel like with like, all right, you're a sorcerer, and say you're focusing on like, an elemental magic. So you're just going to be like, you took a feat that means you're dealing extra damage, take resistance to fire damage. You're just like spamming firebolts and fireballs, and that's cool. But I like the idea as a like utility character to say, I'm going to try to do a skill thing here. All right, cool, magic. Here's my buffing stuff. Maybe I have some like a psychic lance-esque like spell that really is going to go after something in this moment. But outside of that, I just have to think, how can I best use what I have in the situation? And it makes sense for a bard. Like if it's musical, I learned a song that is the essence of my thing. Or like it's intrigue. I'm using what I've learned on individuals and manipulating it against it. It just makes sense to me, and I love that adaptability of trying to fit the situation.
So you're okay with it being prepared spell class, but you also agree that you don't really like prepared spell classes.
Yeah, I mean, I see the point, like RPing wise, for something like a wizard with a tome, going through, or like a cleric being able to, whatever the prepared, like it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's also, like having sandbox is so great, sometimes having the rails of I have to choose these now and hold on to them. I think there's levels of that being cool if you know what you're getting into, right? If you know I'm committing to this idea that I'm anchoring a part of my character in a spell, and then it's no different than just being this is my skill.
But this is the thing that again, we're going on another tangent. Dear Lord. But like for a wizard, I think that you can then reward your players for like good RP, or reward them in a way that's not a level up by saying, like if you weren't a prepared class, by saying like you find a level 1 spell and you are always going to have that level 1 spell ready for you. And when it comes to bards, like I really like the idea that you have this sort of like, it encourages you to not just like completely push off the weirder spells that are maybe more situational or utility based, rather than the fireball,
Right. I mean,
because you can always have them around, and when that moment comes, you're like, I have it, like I finally have it,
Yeah. I am a proponent of prepared spellcasting for that reason, because I think, especially as they begin to take these classes to categories like experts, part of that is preparing for a situation. Always. If you're an expert, sure, you know how to do certain things really well, but being an expert means preparing for each situation. If you know you're going to go into a city tomorrow, you're not going to need those dungeon delving spells. That's not what you're going to need. You're going to need the city spells.
It's like having you're basically like you have like a loadout.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, oh, I'm a rogue, I'm gonna like you just like whip out your like like a satchel full of like different knives and tools and shit, and like this is what I'm gonna need this time, and then you just like gear up.
It feels inspired by like was it like the expert class in some Powered by Apocalypse games. It feels very inspired that like you can do this in your space or at the Haven or whatever it's gonna be. You can just do, and we can just go into that, but like here you can do it. And I like the idea of being like, cool, you're an expert. Once you're in a domain, which is preparing, you can just do.
Does the lore bard actually reward that sort of play too? If you like take the time to really like in Powered by the Apocalypse, like in Monster of the Week, for example, it really helps to like go and like you're like, okay, I have this clue, this footprint. I'm gonna go to the library and study the types of monsters that kind of leave this kind of footprint or whatever.
So I won't say that a lore bard in 5th edition does that per se. It has a bit of an advantage over other bards in that it does have the additional magical secrets. That's a big deal because, again, being able to choose spells from any class is massive. But one of the other things that a lore bard has, and this is the last of its 3 5th edition subclass features, is Peerless Skill. They get this at level 14, and if they make an ability check, they can expend a use of Bardic Inspiration. The bard rolls the inspiration die and adds the number to their ability check. And again, there's that stupid rule of like, you have to do it before the DM says whether you succeed or fail. Forget that, DMs. It's stupid. But what's really cool about this is, first off, as a bard, they've already got expertise, half proficiency on everything. And so then when you're doing these ability checks, they're now getting another way to boost themselves, which is awesome. Now, this is interesting because we talked about bards as support classes, but this is something that's strictly for the bard themselves. And many of you who play D&D may know this, but in case you don't, one of the most important ability checks that you ever make is the initiative roll. That's an ability check. And being able to go, okay, I have some really powerful magic because of the magic spellcasting, or the bard spellcasting list is pretty good. And then also I had all these additional magical secrets. It would be really helpful if I went first. And being able to boost that with your bardic inspiration, that's big.
It's so interesting because as somebody who's like very familiar with skill-based rogues, you can see the design differences where a rogue gets that you have a base 10 on your skill check. So when you roll, you're basically going to be rolling 18s through 22s in the higher levels. And like going back to that 90% thing, it's like, yeah, but if I meet a door that has like a 19 plus lock on it that's going to blow up and kill me, and I roll, a 1, it gets boosted up to a 10. I get a 19. If it meets, it beats. There you go. And it has that sort of feeling. But then with lore bards, it's all ability checks, which allows you to expand that out a little bit. Do you feel like it is as powerful as the skill check? Does it make you feel like this feels powerful to me in later levels?
Well, skill checks are ability checks, so it's extraordinary. It's extraordinarily powerful, and one of the most useful things I can imagine. I would say a high-level bard will never feel useless, even in combat, because it is just versatile. And to your point about differences in design philosophy, I don't know, you probably do know this, Nick, but maybe you don't. In early editions of D&D, bards were a subclass of rogues. And it's I'm a big fan of the fact that they have separated them out, because there is a lot of overlap on these, but they are distinct ideas, and you can do a lot with each one.
Yeah, it does kind of feel to me, after our conversation and kind of seeing them play, it does kind of feel like rogues are just specialized bards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you take like the skills that you put expertise and all that kind of stuff into, that becomes your bread and butter, and then all of the other skills and abilities that you're losing out on with these abilities, like the 14th level skill that you get, like you kind of make up with sneak attack and like your ability in combat to do crazy amounts of damage in a turn. So it becomes sort of like you're specializing into a certain type of bard almost, or like, or in the inverse, a bard is just like a rogue that hasn't specialized.
It's two people. There were two people who were good at a variety of things, and one went, I really want to hit things harder, and the other one went, I want to cast magic.
And
that's
totally.
it.
Well, do we have any final thoughts on bards? If you were to, this is a great thing for me to ask for the people who are new to D&D or TTRPGs. If you are learning the game, this is maybe your first game, would you suggest someone takes a lore bard?
Yeah, I would. Well,
I don't know. I always get on the fence when it comes to spellcasting, when it comes to someone who's brand new. So I guess it's just like, what is your eagerness with brand new? So I think for me, the idea of that, I mean, maybe having a non-prepared class is something that's better, but also I can see the drawbacks as someone who's like, I built my character, we're level 3, this is great, and then like 2 sessions in, it's like, I hate every choice I ever made, I never want to play again because my spells are locked in stone, I get hit all the time, and I don't know what the purpose of D&D is. I'm not into RPA. So I guess it's all about reading the person. I don't know if it's like...
Well, to go off your thing, the thing why I asked this is because I always kind of suggest people take one of the martial classes to start, just because it's like, hey, on your turn you can hit things. When you're an RP, look at all your skills, it'll show you what you're good at. It basically is training wheels. And when you add like key points and you add sorcery points and you add spell slots,
divine smite,
it becomes a thing where you're like, I need 15 minutes to read my spell list. I'll be back, guys.
And I was thinking of the question as like, is this the Bard subclass that you would suggest for starting with Bards? In which case, yes, 100%. I would say Bards are the spellcaster I would suggest people start with, personally.
I would,
That's good.
Not as many options as like a wizard or like sorcerer. Warlock, it's so limiting when it comes to spell slots. You might not feel like you're actually there at times.
I don't know. Maybe Warlocks. Maybe Warlock might be the best.
Fucking Warlock.
Because you have like 4 spell slots.
Yeah.
And no, but with Warlock, you have to choose as you go up the levels. Like, all right, what's going to be your obviously what you're
going to just free spells.
Are you doing tome? Are you doing chain? Are you doing so that like now you're having all these different variations of things? I feel
invocations.
Like
Warlock's so fun.
Yeah, they're so fun.
And then the other weird thing with Warlock is like, all your spell slots are now level 2. What does that mean? I feel like it's a weird way to learn spellcasting. Yeah. So yeah, maybe Bard makes sense.
Bard's more traditional. Warlocks are easier.
Yeah.
I agree with the martial class, and I think fighter sometimes can be seen as one of the easiest because of how it is, but I think that
we've seen you play a fighter. We know we know that it can be an absolute demonic engine of destruction.
Fighters are so good.
No, and that was also me trying to go back to martial after Falkirk for a little while. But I feel like a monk's a great place to start because I think key points start to like pepper in, add some seasoning into what it means. Same thing like Battle Master can be. Barbarians are great. In my opinion, great ones to start with because you're going to deal a lot of damage. You're not going to take a lot of damage back. Yeah, you have a bonus action thing to do, so you're seeing different types of action economy. I think that it becomes more balanced. I guess that's where Bard also hits good too, is that you have bonus action spells allowing yourself to learn more about it. I think Lore Bard is the one I'd go for out of Bard.
I'm going to suggest if you got a brand new person, make them play a Barbarian.
Yeah.
Just give that to them.
Here's a question for the crowd.
No follow-up.
So 2 levels.
What's your favorite Bard like cross like classing into something else? If you ever play a Bard and want to, what would you want to cross class into?
It's Ranger specifically.
Folks, he raised his hand.
I did. Yeah, well, I see. I'm very polite and everything.
There's 5 of us.
But the thing is, so I have a soft spot for Rangers.
Yeah.
I'm biased in this, but
it's just so sad that they're terrible.
So they're really not post Tasha's. Post Tasha's, they're pretty okay. They're pretty good.
Gloomstalkers are great.
And
Horizon Walker as well.
Exactly. Some of the later subclasses are amazing. What's really fun about crossing it with a Ranger is you get still all of that powerful magic from a bard rather. You also get some magic from the Ranger, and then you're also getting some martial. Now, the problem here is that this is a character that is going to require quite the stats because now you've got wisdom. Yeah, mad. You've got wisdom, charisma, Dex, strength, essentially everything. You need to be kind of good at everything, but that's kind of the Bard's point, which is why I like it.
Yeah. Any others?
I mean, fighter. Yeah, all day.
Bard rogue's a good combo.
Yeah.
Nick's been suggested a bardificer, so an artificer bard.
Yeah, it would be a bard that makes their own tools. You know,
I think that could be a lot of fun for like taking 2 support classes and just merging it together.
I think that's if you really want to make a backline rogue bard where you're like, okay, charisma, intelligence. That's what you're working with. Like maybe some wisdom, but what you're working with is like a ton of support. Like you are going to be a support king or queen because you are going to have all of the artificer infusions. You're going to have all of the bardic inspiration support stuff. And you're going to like, maybe you won't have a really great fighting life, but you're going to have a really cool outside of, fighting life because you're going to be able to make some cool, weird shit.
But, to a more single attribute distribution method, you're really looking at sorcerers or warlocks. Charisma is your casting stat.
Bard lock.
Yeah. A bard lock is...
Pact of the Chain, crazy,
or like a
or Pact of the Weapon,
like Robert Johnson or something. You're just like, I'm at the crossroads and start learning how to play an instrument or something.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Hell yeah.
So
And
basically Bards with anyone.
Yeah.
Cross them however you
Again,
want.
Which
like
is-
I said at the start, it's a great way to cross class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a fantastic, like Warlock, a fantastic cross multi-classing
Versatile.
class, very versatile, and because they're bards, they play nice with everyone.
Oh my god. Okay. Goodbye, everyone. Bye.
Well, that's it for Tabletop this week. Everyone, I hope you have an awesome Thanksgiving if you're celebrating in the U.S. And if you want to make me even more thankful than I already am for each and every one of you, share this show with your friends. It really helps us get the word out about the show. And if you don't want to do that, you can even just go down into your podcast app and leave a review. It only takes about 2 minutes and it helps the show a ton. All right, everyone, thank you, and I hope you have a great Turkey Day for all who celebrate.